I mean, fuck, it's Wednesday. It's the day after Election Day. Like, Brian, I think what you mentioned earlier is that people are a bit in shock right now with everything that's going on. Fucking real life is a bit noisy these days. It's uncertain, and I think one thing for me that really kind of just keeps me not from just dwelling on shit that's happening in politics and whatnot is fucking fantasy football. I think
what is fan? I don't remember fantasy football.
Yeah.
Like okay. I am absolutely still in kind of a state of shock. Like I stayed up until whatever midnight to hear what was going to happen, and then I think I was just so blown away, not only by that, but the fact that California voted to legalize it. Holy fucking shit! Like it was a lot of shocking stuff, and I ended up staying up to like 6 or 7 in the morning.
Jesus.
Oh, it was awful, and my brain is having a hard time even remembering what happened last Sunday and Monday and Thursday. But you know what? We're going to give it a shot. We should. So, should we go for it?
Yeah, let's try and spark, a little weed reference, spark our memory.
Oh, see, even I was too slow to fucking pick up that good shit.
Killer Cali Fantasy Football.
We're doing this thing live.
I'm fucking ready. Clear out the wives and the children. It's time to get fucking wild. I'm glad the fire and the passion is real.
Everybody gets a little taste of the wrath of the podcast.
I'm gonna remember this fucking day, you bastards.
It's a good way to start the season right there.
Go fuck yourselves.
You just proved that you have never listened to one of these podcasts before. What the fuck are you doing?
We need to look at the real person to blame. These fucking guys going absolutely ape shit on you.
This isn't about picking friends. This is about picking winners.
That's stupid. How do you feel after getting your ass kicked?
Firing on multiple cylinders right now.
You bastard. That's gonna be a good one. But okay. So I think Sean, you were saying earlier that it's been a long time since we actually got like a good preview session in where we actually had a chance to talk about what was going to be happening, with these games coming up this week. Like we're getting down to the wire. What we have four games left.
4 games left. Yeah, we've spent a lot of time reflecting back and reviewing people's matchups, but yeah, it's fucking crunch time. There is a massive bottleneck if you've checked the standings in the last couple of days. 7 out of 10 teams have the exact same record, or 6 out of 10 teams have the same record at 4-5. Like every week from here on out to the playoffs is going to be like must win for pretty much everybody except for you and fucking Glasgow over here. And I think it'll be fun to spend a little more time on these podcasts looking forward at the matchups in front of us and kind of trying to dissect who we think's going to win and trying to do a little bit more on the prediction side. But let's also not forget what has happened last week and try to dip in. So we'll do a really quick run through of last week's matchups, just highlight some of the interesting stuff. And then we'll spend the majority of today going through this week's matchups and seeing what we have in store for us this week.
Well, who do you want to start with? The best performance?
Yeah, I think let's stay true to our trend and pick the highest scoring team of last week or the week prior, which this week was Misha, and put up a nice bulky 147. And looking at the matchup, I mean, the majority of Misha's team definitely came out to play this week, minus like 1 or 2 people. But you look up and down, and most people are in double digits, if not, in the 20s too.
Yeah, he only had three people that didn't get double digits.
Yeah, and one was the defense, which is like whatever. You can't expect double digits there all the time.
Nope. Duke Johnson, which was probably a fill-in. For either maybe Jeremy Hill, my guess was. I know Misha has not been so strong on running backs, but the funny thing is that I do remember some of these games. Mike Wallace, for instance, he had a pretty big game. He was one of Misha's highest scorers. That was off of like a big play, if I remember. It was like a huge long, yeah. So he has 4 receptions for 124. So I think one of those receptions was this just long monster for a touchdown. And I had 2 Ravens goings that did absolutely shit for me. And so I remember watching that play and hoping there was going to be more from my guys. There weren't. That was a good, nice time for Mike Wallace to step up. Jimmy Graham, I love how Misha was sending out like a text, like
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham's up for sale.
Jimmy
And then-
Graham's price is going up after the
Yeah,
second touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden he just started having a monster night, 8 for 103 and 2 TDs. That's
Yeah,
pretty nice.
Jimmy Graham has, I don't know if we would say potentially returning to form, but has had a few good games this season. Still been pretty up and down, but man, if this last week was a sign of anything to come, it's kind of cool just seeing Jimmy Graham be a force again, because he's one of those players for me that is really fun to watch when he's playing well and getting fed a lot. Like, he's just a really entertaining freak athlete to watch play football.
True. And so obviously Misha had the highest score, and so he won against Jimmy. Not that Jimmy had a bad week by any stretch. He was just missing a couple important pieces. AJ Green was on bye for him, so he didn't have AJ going. And just had some disappointing performances. Broncos defense, I would say, that's the biggest disappointment, because going up against Oakland, that top defense really needed to put up a little bit more than a point. I mean, Oakland's been scoring a lot, but at the same time, that's the Broncos defense, which is supposed to be one of the, stingiest in the league right now. And they only got him 1 point.
Oakland just came out firing in that game.
Yeah,
and Dez, I would say that might be the biggest disappointment right there.
Against Cleveland, he only gets, and they put up 35 points.
Yeah, something not right about that. I don't expect that to continue week over week, but definitely a shock when you're playing Cleveland. You expect your studs to have a really good showing from that.
Yeah, no kidding.
But a lot of the rest of his team did pretty good. I mean, both his running backs. He's got Jay Ajayi, which, dude, maybe one of the strongest in the league right now.
The biggest pickup of the year, because since those 3 games, the week 6, 7, and week 9.
Oh, God.
Yeah, 200, 200, and 111. That's on the ground.
Touchdown, 5 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns.
4 games.
Are there any receiving touchdowns, or is that it?
I'm not really sure, but
No, not a lot. Not a lot in the receiving game. But on the ground, that's insane.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy's team certainly has some good pieces to it, but when you're going up against 147, you're going to have a phenomenal week to surpass that, and didn't quite come up with it. So congrats, Misha. Yep.
Yeah, you can't have 3 players getting under 3 points. That's not going to help you.
Exactly.
So too bad, Jimmy. I don't even know. Well, I don't know. Do you even want to talk about the pick'ems? I don't even remember.
No, I don't think we even can, because I didn't even write them down last time. I'd have to go back to the recordings library.
Not that we don't have it. Yeah, we have to go back to the recording library. We can get back to the pick'ems, but okay. Anyway, so let's
move on to
the next highest scorer.
Derek, actually. Derek had a really nice week, only 7 points below Misha at a nice, hefty, girthy 140.
And
wow. I would say, back to business with Mark Ingram, which I know we'll touch on that with your team as well, Brian, but definitely surprised at the two-headed beast of Hightower and Ingram both having really strong games, but again, against the SF defense, which is barely considered an NFL defense at this point. But, monster game. Welcome back from the bench, Mark Ingram. Aaron Rodgers, doing his thing. He was in that shootout basically with Indy, even though they couldn't win.
I can't believe that. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it. I mean, Greg Olsen doing his thing, Antonio Brown doing his thing as well. Nobody else really did anything too noteworthy. So just enough very, very strong performances. When you get 60 points between 2 people, you're definitely sitting pretty well. And the rest of his team didn't shit the bed, so that's Plenty of
That's
juice.
true. And funny enough, like same situation, like going up against Chris, who didn't have a bad week by any stretch, unlike unlike Jimmy, who had a couple really like dud slots in his lineup. They only got him 1 or 2 points. Chris had, a pretty decent performance for the most part. It was just a few players that he really needed that juice from that let him down, like Andrew Luck. In that same shootout, Luck
Yeah.
only had 14 points.
Well, look where all the points were on whose team was it? They went all to Frank Gore.
Yeah, I mean, but that's crazy. He threw 2 picks, 2 picks that game. So that would have been some love that he needed. Who else?
I would say for Chris, I mean,
Who's the
honestly,
biggest
I
disappointment?
don't think Chris would probably be too happy about this week. I mean, to speak for him, but if it weren't for Jason Witten having a fucking ridiculous 24-point game, I mean, he would have probably been less than 100 points for the week because nobody else really on his team did much of anything.
Well, his superstars didn't end up showing up at all. Now he had a couple people on bye, but for the most part, most of his main players,
Le'Veon
did not do what he needed to do. He only had 32 on the ground, had 6 receptions for 38 yards, no touchdowns. Nobody had that superstar performance except for like Jason Witten.
And Chris's team was definitely kind of a piecemeal type deal with this week. I mean, he was crushed with buys, having to deal with that. So you look at his bench, and he's got a lot of noteworthy players there. But I mean, getting 113, piecing your team together is definitely nothing to sneeze at. But
No.
just not enough most weeks to really get that win, unless you just get lucky and go up against somebody who kind of shit the bed a little bit.
Yeah, and so it's a tough place to be in. So now he's at 2-7.
I would say not out of it yet, but I mean I think every game is absolutely must win for him at this point.
And I would say the way everything ended up playing out this weekend, he lost, so that's not a good thing for him. But he was very fortunate in the way it all played out. All of those, what were they? The 4 and 4 teams, they all lost. All the 3 and 5 teams, they all won, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I don't know if Chris would have wanted that. Maybe he would have wanted to see some of the 3 and 5 teams go down to kind of keep the basement a little more of a party. But at the same time, he's still only 2 games out.
Yeah, he's only 2 games out.
Fifth or fourth place. So
exactly, and that gets
still
you
a lot of room.
Exactly, that gets you into the playoffs. Now, so it's pretty much do or die for Chris. I mean, he's got to win out. The only way Misha got to the championship when he did, after going 0-6 or whatever it was, is he had a hot streak. He got to go
on a run. So we'll see if Chris can go on a run. We'll preview his matchup here, see what that looks like. But let's keep chugging through these recaps real quick here and move over to Phil's team. 138. He was definitely one of the couple top dogs there. And which was cool. He got somebody, finally started beating up on Mr. Johnny Glasgow.
Yep.
Which
it was Melvin. It was Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon show, who just continues to just wreak havoc on.
He is
matchup proof. I would say absolutely matchup proof. Finds the end zone. Seems like every week, if not multiple times.
His worst game. He has 1 game so far this year in single digits, and that single digit is 9.
Yeah, he's still at 94 rushing yards. His worst game of the year. He almost eclipsed 100.
So he has 2 games this year where he has over 30 points. Where is he at on his touchdowns now? So he has got, I think what we said, 8 last week. What was it? 3, 6, 8, 9 on the ground, and 2 in the air.
My God.
So, yeah, dude, number 1 running back. I mean, Phil, way to go on that. No expert was toting Melvin Gordon as the number 1 this year. So good on you. And you had solid performances from a lot of other spots. Threw in Blake Bortles,
Yeah,
and
nice little throw in there. I mean, look at Phil's bench. He did not have any options. He had
yep,
everybody else on bye, and I mean, it didn't look like he didn't really have to do much waiver action. I think maybe throwing Bortles in there was a waiver pickup, and that really worked out for him. But Eric Ebron, I think maybe new to his lineup. That was a nice little tight end pickup, but everybody kind of contributed. He had a pretty well-rounded week with a couple monster performances from Melvin, and I would say Bortles too.
hmm yeah, I don't know, man. It was
I would say Phil's team is definitely one. I think he's been scoring pretty highly. Actually, you know what? I'm very curious. I forget who it is that is the top scoring team in our league, and I want to say Phil is up there.
I haven't looked at it in
Yeah,
a
Phil.
little while.
Actually, Phil and we're half a point away from each other in second place for most points for, and then Jimmy is the leader. So I was just saying that I think Phil's team is one that people should be scared of, because you look at the guys he had on bye last week: Jordan Reed,
hmm
Kirk Cousins. I mean, if Carson can get back to it, he's got a lot of options.
Yep, man. God, looking at these numbers, they are pretty fucking crazy. Ugh. It doesn't help, for Chris's position. It doesn't help when your team is one of the second most highest points against, and you're also the lowest in points forward.
Yeah, that combination is gonna kill you.
It's gonna kill you.
You can get by sometimes being, on the top or bottom of one, but if you're on the wrong end of both, you are just not putting yourself in a good position, because you're not getting any luck. And
Yeah, you're not getting any luck. Yeah, it's you need to put the points to go up against the bad luck that you're running into.
If you're not going to get the luck, you have no choice but to score a shitload of points, and that's obviously not what's happening.
No. Yeah, no, and not that John had a bad game either. Like, all the teams so far that have lost, they all scored over 100.
Yeah, no one had like a real shit overall week,
Except
way below
for,
average.
Well, Joey sort of did, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen lower weeks, but
we have seen lower weeks, and not like Joey had a horrible week, but he definitely did not. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, and John's team, pretty interesting. I mean, almost most of his points were scored between three people. I mean, Latavius had that monster 3-touchdown game. Looks like he is back in full force. Dak Prescott continues to just chuck it around, and what a nice surprise he's been for the Cowboys. And then Julio Jones doing his studly stud things, and then pretty much everybody else on his team was dog shit.
Yep. Oh, like bad too. Derrick Henry had a fucking goose. Marvin Jones had .5.
Yeah. Rashad Jennings 4.5. Like, man, a lot of garbage on that week. So, I mean, I don't know. I think I'd be curious. We really need to get John on one of these podcasts. I know he wants to do it, and he's a fun person to talk with. But I am curious how he feels about his team. I know sitting at 7-2, you're feeling pretty good about that, but I don't think his team is the dominant team that we saw, maybe the first 5-6 weeks of the season.
Well, I would say, and I can't remember who. I think, did he have Doug Martin going earlier in the year?
He did have Doug Martin, yeah. He still does have Doug Martin.
Yeah, but Doug only actually played one game where he got like 11.5.
He could be coming back pretty soon. That would, I'm sure, be very welcomed for John, because his running back situation's not too great. But, I mean, he's still got Tom Brady, and he'll throw in Alshon in there. He's got some good pieces, but, it's not the dominance where he had Marvin Jones earlier this year that was destroying people. I think he had Cameron Meredith for a while when he was super hot. So
I think Chris had Cameron Meredith.
Oh, was it Chris? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know who. Yeah, but I feel John's had some other players that have been pretty, kind of on fire. So I don't know. I guess
we shall see. Well, let's get to the last two matchups here. Let's talk about you and Nick real quick. This one was definitely the closest matchup that we had last week. Definitely came down to that Monday night Buffalo
Yep.
Buffalo game, and it wasn't even a lock in with LaShawn McCoy. Like, he had a pretty slow first half, but then really picked it up in the second half and overtook you there. But I mean, both of you guys had, you know, pretty solid weeks, I would say. Nothing too crazy, but I mean, you were obviously fueled by Matt Ryan putting up huge numbers, and dude, your man Zeke the Weed Sneak just keeps on doing it.
Yeah, well, if he moved to California, he wouldn't have to sneak that shit no more. But yeah, dude, he's been great. You know, he has been everything I could have asked for the number 9 pick overall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, number 4 running back. He's been very incredibly consistent, and that's with, you know, for the most part, I would say his average is going to be around. I'm just going to say, like, his average is going to be around like 16, 17.
Yeah, he has
right?
not had a game under double digits, and his lowest week of the season was week 1.
Week 1, right? And he still got a touchdown.
Yeah. He's not one of those guys that's reliant on touchdowns to get points either. He's got the workload. I mean, that's the way their offense runs. They burn a ton of the clock, and they just run the ball fucking straight down your throat, and he gets a ton of work and gets a ton of yardage.
Yep. And he's been pretty solid. He's got some nasty matchups coming up, though. He's got Pittsburgh, Baltimore, you know, which are obviously they're old school kind of, you know, NFL run defense. So if he can get through those and still put up numbers, then, you know, not only will I be a believer, but you know, an active voice championing for Zeke.
Zeke for president.
Yeah, exactly.
So
But
yeah,
a lot,
good again performance for him there.
but just not enough from everybody else. A lot of people let me down. Like my 2 Ravens, like, God damn it, dude, they fucking sucked. And watching the I don't know what Nick thinks about that. They got the win, but it did not look pretty one. Yep. And I was hoping those Ravens were going to come back and fucking do Nick in, but it was the other way around. Nick, that slippery fucking bastard, picks up Antonio Gates. He had Hunter Henry, and then, you know, picks up Gates instead, and Gates, that was actually pretty tough. I remember being in the bar and with Chris, and that happens. I'm wearing a Gates jersey, and, you know, he gets a touchdown. Everybody in the bar is cheering, yes! And I'm just like, no!
Yeah, with the Gates jersey on, like, what
with
the
the
fuck
Gates
is wrong with
jersey
this
on.
guy?
Yeah, no, what the fuck is going on with this guy?
This guy's a moron.
Yeah.
Does he know where he is?
Yeah.
But Nick has 2 people to thank for his win, and that's,
I would say one
I would
in
say,
particular.
I would say, yeah, obviously Mikey Evans putting up that massive Thursday night game, but I mean, Odell getting you 2 touchdowns early in that game. I mean, I'm sure Nick was very thankful for that.
Yeah, Odell came out to play. You know, Odell has had a weird season. You know, he's number 8 right now. You know, he's coming off a game, you know, a bye week, and then a game where he only got 6.5. He had a 39-point game before that, a 13.5 game before that, and then like a 3.5. So I feel Odell is coming back to form. I hope for Nick's sake that you know, it continues to play out. But yeah, that one hurt, and the Mike Evans one really. Watching
Mike
that,
Evans is a fucking monster.
No, but I would say, you know, Nick's team didn't have a fantastic week, but those 2 players
just got enough. You know, lucky for him, you didn't have a massive week either, so just squeaked out enough to get past you there.
Yeah, no, funny enough, I think we were both in the same. I only had 3 players that were like had good performances. Tim Hightower, you know, you're talking about the New Orleans team. That was a pickup just because I had 7 people on bye and no no choice but to
That
pick up
really worked out
somebody.
for you. Yeah, that was a nice pickup. I mean, I saw you pick him up. Obviously, he was a hot pickup for the week. But when they had said, it was going to be kind of a split situation there, I was like, ooh, I don't know if that's going to be good for Hightower. But he came out from the gates very hot, and then the roles kind of switched after that.
Yeah, he had 87 on the ground and a touchdown.
Yeah, it's
Like, dude,
fucking huge.
like I don't even know. Like I mean, I might consider keeping him, and him possibly going into the lineup. Like that's his last two games. That's hard to ignore.
Yeah.
I know he's going up against San Francisco, and Mark Ingram obviously is the starter and is going to have a lot more love. But I don't know. That's one I'm going to keep my eye on. But yeah, congrats to Nick. I lost. It sucked, but that's what happens.
How did it feel to have Nick hand you one of your two losses?
Well, it's one of the only losses I think I've ever taken from Nick.
Who else beat you
Or
this year?
John, the very first game.
Yes.
Dude, the very first week, I had the absolute lowest score, and it wasn't by a small amount. It was by a lot. I only had 80 points,
Oof.
and the next lowest score was 113. Or
Jesus.
sorry, 109. I'm sorry, 109.
Yeah.
But even still, I started from the bottom. Now I'm here.
Oh shit, dude! You fucking dropping lyrics over here.
Oh shit! Yeah, dude. number one. I can't complain.
All right. Well, now we got Brian rapping over here, so why don't we keep things moving along? So the only other matchup last week, Joey and myself, and it was a pretty close matchup most of the day until kind of the afternoon games really started to separate us there. Thankfully for me, Drew Brees keeps doing me good, and this is like the first year I drafted a quarterback really like a lot earlier than I usually do, and it's definitely a situation where Drew Brees is winning me weeks now. I can safely say that. So feeling good about Drew Brees.
How many wins do you have, Sean?
I only got about 4 wins, but
okay. He has 2 games this year that he has 41 and 43 points.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he has 3 games where he has 31, 30, and 30.
Yep.
Another game where he has 22, and only 2 games with 16. If he's not the number 1 quarterback, I'm not really sure who is.
That's a good question. I don't think he is. I think Matt Ryan's the number 1 quarterback.
Oh wait, I set that one up, didn't I?
You motherfucker! You wanted me to look that up.
But even still.
Yeah, let's look at the QB rankings real quick. Now you got me curious.
What about who the others are?
Yeah, who like the top 3 is. Let's see.
Let's see.
Matt Ryan 251, Drew Brees 229, and then Aaron Rodgers 211. So, yeah.
Funny enough. Yeah, and that's, where are you? 4 and 5? So who did you end up losing to when Drew Brees had his really good weeks? Can you remember any week where you lost and Drew Brees went off?
I don't know. I've lost a lot of weeks. It's hard to remember them all.
Oh, that's tough. I don't want to put you through this. Well, you won this one.
Yeah,
poor Joey.
Won this one. Yeah, Joey's team just he didn't really come out too hot. Nobody. I was worried about Sharkandrick West. He stayed in check. Brandon Marshall stayed in check. Travis Kelce got ejected from the game.
Yeah, that was huge.
Ty Montgomery stayed in check.
Yeah, Phillip was the only one who really came out for him.
Yeah, and 23 is nice. Phillip can certainly do more, but yeah, Joey just didn't have enough performances to really do it. And another guy that really helped me out was Dwan Harris, who
I was going to say
Carlos Hyde.
What a good plug-in.
I wasn't sure. The only thing that was like a guarantee was like if running backs are thin, and if you have a backup running back going against New Orleans, that's one backup you definitely feel good about playing, and he definitely looked really good. So happy that worked out.
Forte worked out for you, sort of riding that train. He kept.
He got the touchdown train continuing. Jordy Nelson, had a solid one. Delaney did his thing. A couple catches and a TD. Yeah. So just 124, pretty decent showing, despite fucking pissed that I swapped out Dontrell Inman for Travis Benjamin right at the last second before all the games started, and that definitely didn't work out in my favor, but didn't kill me either.
No. Well, you come away with the win.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. Hold on a second. What time is it? What time are we at right now?
Oh, like into the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
We're about 30 minutes.
Now, we said that this was going to be a quick...
It's impossible. We can never do that. We just can't do it.
So what do we need? What do we need? Like a fucking somebody here with a goddamn stop clock?
I think we do. I honestly think we need to say we get X amount of time per matchup, so we know how long it's gonna be, and a fucking air horn goes off or something like that, so that we keep ourselves in check, or else we have no control. We're like fucking just heroin addicted, just drug addicts that cannot help ourselves. We're lying to our families. We're lying to the other people in this league that will do as we say, and we never fucking do.
No, dude. This is an evil fucking train to be on. But all right. Okay, so way to go to all the winners. Sorry to all the losers, including myself. Funny enough, everybody scored really, really close, really, really close to each other. You had how many? 113, 114, 116, 111. Like, yeah, that's pretty interesting.
But yeah, I mean, the way it all worked out, you got a ton of people right now sitting at 4-5. You've got Derek alone at 5-4. And you've got you and John sitting at the top. So, I mean, it is like anyone's game to get into the playoffs right now. And it's going to be very, very interesting. A lot of the 4-5, 5-4 teams are matched up right now. So, you're gonna see some moving and shaking. So, like,
what are the matchups this particular week? Like, so who are the 4-5 teams that are facing each other?
So there's three matchups that have these 4-5, 5-4 teams. So. For one of them is Nick versus myself. We're both at 4-5.
Oh, well, okay.
You've got Misha at 4-5 going against Derek at 5-4, and then you've got Jimmy going against Joey, and both of them are at 4-5. So,
but there's another 4-5.
And
okay, so that's
Phil going up against Chris. So Chris in a very much a must-win situation.
That is a must-win situation.
So we're not going to have this 6-team bottleneck at the same record that we do now. We're not going to have that after this week because so many teams with that record are playing each other. So it's gonna be a big moving week in the standings after this week. So that'll be pretty fun to see.
Yep.
Well, why don't we just jump into some matchups here?
Who do you want to start with?
Let's start with Joey and Jimmy, both at 4-5. And let's just kind of take a peek here. I know Jimmy's got Ben Roethlisberger, who really was shaky to start last week, coming off the injury, but finished out pretty decently with I know a touchdown or two. So he might be getting to better health here. He's got Jay Ajayi. He's got DeMarco Murray, second best running back, thrown back into his lineup. He's got Tyler Eifert back in his lineup. Alan Hearns, who had the concussion, we'll see if he's ready to go. But Jimmy's team definitely has been a force lately with some of the big-time scorers like A.J. Green, Jay Ajayi, DeMarco Murray.
But he's missing Amari and Frank Gore.
Yeah, missing Amari and Frankie,
and Matt Prater. I don't know how Matt Prater's been doing for him, but I think now he's got Matt Bryant. Matt Bryant had an awesome game last week. I know.
Yeah,
Matt Bryant the last few weeks. Yeah. Oh, dude, he's the number one kicker this year.
Oh, just the number one kicker.
Just the number one kicker. Okay.
No big deal.
No biggie.
So, I'd say Jimmy's got most of, he doesn't have Amari, doesn't have Frank, but looking up and down his lineup, he does have kind of the usual suspects that I think you would expect to see in his lineup, which, is pretty strong for him. Mm-hmm. And I think Joey has a one or two waiver pickups. He slotted in Rashard Matthews from Tennessee, who has been pretty solid most of the last 4 or 5 weeks.
He had 2 touchdowns against the Chargers, so and a touchdown the week before that.
And
So
he's got David Johnson going against the Niners, which I wouldn't be surprised if he has like 30 points.
so yeah, I mean, whew, this is funny enough, a lot is checked in Jimmy's favor as far as the whoever they're giving the edge to, but I don't know, man. Joey has a couple matchups that I think you're right. They could pay out really, really big. Like David Johnson against SF, the Ravens defense against Cleveland. The Ravens, the last 2 weeks they've played, have 17 points and 14 points, and
Yeah.
two fumble recoveries, an interception, and a touchdown in each game.
Yeah, I know Joey just picked up the Ravens off waivers this week, I'm pretty sure, and that's a very tasty matchup against Cleveland. So I would expect some good, maybe double-digit points from the D there. He's got Spencer Ware probably looking like he'll be back in the lineup for KC. I mean, Carolina's not an easy team to run against. You can definitely
But they're
throw
not
against them, but
they're not what they were.
they're not what they were. And Spencer Ware, if he is okay, he can be pretty matchup proof, and we'll get a lot of work there.
Yeah. Oh, I think this is actually going to be a really close game. Uh, Jay Ajayi against San Diego for Jimmy. Like, the one thing I know about San Diego is that we cannot stop the run for
Yeah.
fucking shit.
28th ranked against the run.
Yeah, so Jay Ajayi, if he's been doing as well as he has, like, he might fucking get like 40 points for all I know. I certainly hope that doesn't happen for San Diego's sake, but I don't know. This is a tough one to call, actually.
I'm gonna go Joey on this one. I think I think David Johnson is gonna be a huge factor for him, and
Mhm.
I think the matchups look a little bit better on Joey's side. I think Jimmy's got some tough matchups that he's running into, like DeMarco. I mean, he's been really good. He's also been battling some injury. Green Bay is a very tough team to run against. Ben Roethlisberger, if he's not fully healthy, going up against Dallas, that's a tough one to play against right there as well. He doesn't have Amari, he doesn't have Frank Gore, so he's got to throw in some guys like Quincy Enunwa and Alan Hearns in his flex. So I'm gonna have to go with Joey on this one.
David Johnson against SF. I'm going to go against the grain, actually. I'm going to go. I feel that Jimmy has a lot more pieces that could go, that just have a chance of going off. DeMarco Murray against Green Bay. I don't know what Green Bay is. They're fifth ranked against the run. For the last 2 weeks, they've given up 24.5 and 29.5 against Indy and Atlanta. Jay Ajayi against San Diego. I know that's going to be juicy. AJ Green going up against New York Giants. I don't know. I think I'm going to give Jimmy a slight edge, and it's going to be small. It's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be. I think this could be one of the closest games of the week, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Jimmy.
All right, so I'm writing this down this week. So I'm gonna write in you chose Jimmy, and I'm also gonna write that you think this will be the closest matchup of the week.
Thank you.
So that'll be something we can check back in on as well. All right, so we're splitting it.
Nice. Who we got now? What about the other 4 and 5 matchup? You and
That
Nick.
would be myself and Nick. Yeah, let's take a peek at that one. So, yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm actually getting together with Nick this weekend. Maybe get to watch a little bit together. We'll see, but no matter what, it guarantees that him and I will get to do a bit of shit talking in person, which is always fun.
Yep.
And actually, looking at this matchup, I see Nick has already started some of the talk, and I definitely wanted to bring this up with him because he drafted. Remember when Nick drafted, we were giving him so much shit because he drafted like 5 people in Jacksonville.
All the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, and Chris Ivory was one of those people that he drafted and did not work out as a good draft pick, so Nick dropped him. And then last week, Chris Ivory rushed for over 100 yards, looked like he may be back to form, And so I picked him up off waivers this week, and I'll get to use him against Nick. So I know Nick says he's laughing at that, but I don't know. He should be maybe a little sweating on that one.
Well, here's where you're not going to be sweating. One of Nick's best players is on bye. Sean McCoy.
Yeah, I mean, LaShawn McCoy has battled some injury, but did come back and rushed for 85 yards last week and had a good game. So I'm definitely happy he doesn't have that. I'm also glad he doesn't have Matt Stafford, who has been pretty consistent, though he picked up Carson Wentz, who's going against Atlanta, who is the worst defense against the quarterback. So could be a nice game in store for Wentz there. But you look at Nick's running back core, Devontae Booker and Robert Kelly. Booker had a shit week last week, but is going up against New Orleans, which is a fucking juice matchup. And Robert Kelly has been good filling in that running back role, but does have to go up against the Vikings, who have been good, not as good as earlier this season, but not an easy matchup there.
Nope. I don't know. I think this is going to be another really close game. Drew Brees against Denver, that's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, Denver is the first ranked defense against the quarterback. Thankfully, it's in the cushy confines of New Orleans, which, that's really where Drew Brees does his magic. So hopefully that will help. And hoping that he just has to throw the ball around a lot.
I'm actually going to make a bold prediction.
Whoa!
Bold prediction, here it comes. I think this is going to be one of the better DeAndre Hopkins weekends.
I like it. I like that a lot. I mean,
going up against
Jacksonville?
Yeah, going up against Jacksonville, in Jacksonville, I feel that is just one of those, it's a dirty type of a game. Either one of two things is going to happen. Either Houston is actually going to get their heads out of their asses and start looking like a real fucking offense and playing good, or Jacksonville is going to fucking turn on the juice and Houston's going to be so far from behind they're going to do what DeAndre needs the most: garbage time. DeAndre is one of the best garbage time wide receivers there is. So give him a lot of garbage time. That could be a huge week. Jordy against Tennessee, juicy. Tennessee obviously against Green Bay, with Delaney Walker. I don't know, man. I'm looking at this. I initially wanted to give the edge to Nick because obviously Nick's got a lot of good pieces, but I don't know. I think I'm going to give you an edge.
Okay. I will certainly take that. I could definitely see this being a really close matchup. I mean,
it's probably going to be.
Yeah, both Nick and I are kind of piecing in a few players here and there. I don't know Carlos Hyde. I don't know if he's going to play, but if he doesn't, I still have Dwan Harris there. Got some tough matchups. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to myself as well. Yeah, I do think that DeAndre could have a good game here. I think Jordy could have a good game, and I'm definitely curious to see what Chris Ivory does against Houston, who has not been very good against the run either. So this one's tough to predict, but definitely gonna give it to myself.
Well,
Nick,
all right.
Fucking coming for you.
Well, you guys will have plenty of opportunities to fucking shit talk and do all that this weekend. So that sounds like it's gonna be a really good time.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Moving on. The other super close matchup standings wise, we got Misha going up against Derek. And Derek's team's been pretty good lately. He's been putting up a lot of points. Got Mark Ingram had a big week last week. Aaron Rodgers continues to do some big things. Looks like his team this week definitely looks different than last week. He's got Isaiah Crowell in there. He's got Cole Beasley in there. He got his Dallas Love.
Well, I think he's been starting Isaiah Crowell kind of consistently.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know he's got Theo Riddick that he throws in there as well. But
yeah, let me just check really just to see. He had Isaiah Crowell in last week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think Cole Beasley might be the new
Cole Beasley.
addition.
That's a new one. Yeah, he had Isaiah Crowell the week before when Jimmy went off for like 177. Oh my God, that was every single position was in double digits.
Yeah, and he's got some pretty decent, juicy matchups as well. I mean, he's got Aaron Rodgers at Tennessee, Demarius going against the Saints. You know that there should be some big points, and Emmanuel obviously the same going up against the Saints. His running backs do have a couple tough matchups though. Mark Ingram at actually Denver's been pretty bad against the run this year.
Yeah, they haven't been great at all. Like, well, I mean, they have, oh man, 2 games that they gave up this year where they let a running back or the running backs go off for 40 plus points.
Yeah,
Last week against Oakland and then the week against Atlanta. Like that's yeah. So it could actually be a good chance for Mark Ingram to start doing some good
yeah,
work.
yeah. Could really be. I could see that being a run heavy game, which I don't want to see that because I want to see Drew Brees sling it around. But could be a good opportunity to run the ball quite a bit against the porous Denver rush defense.
That game is going to be a big game for Derek. That New Orleans game.
Yeah, he's
'Cause
got a lot of implications there. He got Ingram, Emmanuel, Demarius.
Yeah, three people.
I mean, 3 people in one game on both sides of the field. That's going to be always something to watch for Derek in that game if he can end up watching that one.
Yeah, and as far as Misha is concerned, Misha, I don't know. For some reason, this actually just doesn't look like it's going to be a good week for Misha. I don't know why.
Well, let's see. He's got Gronk going up against Seattle. I mean, Gronk is typically matchup proof, but Seattle
Yeah.
has been incredibly strong. Only 1 touchdown allowed to tight ends this entire season. So that's a tough
He's-
one. He's
he's-
got both the tight ends going in that game. That'll be pretty interesting. And the Patriots have been very strong against the tight ends as well. Only 1 touchdown on their side allowed. So it'll be interesting to see if
Yeah,
both of them
two of
bust
his
out
biggest
that.
weapons, two of his biggest weapons could technically be taken out by each other, like just
Yeah.
because their teams are playing each other. Mike Wallace I think has a really good matchup with Cleveland. Uh,
TJ Yeldon, I don't know. I mean, if Chris Ivory is starting to really take the lion's share of the rushes there, that's not going to bode well for TJ Yeldon. And Duke Johnson hasn't been too great
well, okay, but
lately.
he'll have Jeremy Hill
Oh, yeah, he
back.
probably hasn't updated his lineup yet.
Well, yeah, he's also got Ryan Matthews on the bench. Like he's got nobody on buys. Derek's got Theo Riddick, Anquan Bolden, and Adam Vinatieri on bye. So Misha's got his full team and then some. So if he wants, he can throw in fucking Michael Thomas if he wants. He could throw in Sammy Coates. If he doesn't like Cam Newton against KC, he could throw in Mariota against Green Bay. Like he's got a lot of options.
Does have options. It'll be interesting to see what he ends up doing with them because
Yeah, I
it could
do
go
think
either way on a lot of those people.
I do think yeah, I don't know. Looking at this right now, I'm going to give the edge to Derek even though he's got some people on bye. I just feel like some of Misha's matchups just aren't that great. However, of course, if later down the week before the game tomorrow, actually who is playing on Thursday?
Baltimore and Cleveland. So
Okay.
yeah,
And
they both
Misha's
have
got
people
2
in it,
people. Yeah, Misha's got 2 people in on that game. So
And Derek's got one person on that game.
yeah, I mean, right now I'm going to be giving the edge to Derek. Misha might do some adjusting and things like that, but right now, I think that's where I'm going to be putting it.
I have to agree with you on that one. I think based on the matchups, I think Derek's got the more upside, and I could see his team just going off a bit more. And yeah, that's what it looks like to me on paper right now. So I'm going to go Derek as well.
Yeah, all right, that sounds good.
Okay. Well, let's move on to you and John. I mean, obviously, you guys are pretty well locked into to at least having some sort of place in the playoff picture.
You think? Wait, you think it's actually locked at this point in time?
I didn't. Oh, I think I said maybe fairly locked, but we've got 4 weeks left, and you guys already have 7 wins. you're 2 to 3 wins ahead of almost everybody else in the league. So unless
So if we lost every single week from here on
which
out,
is
we would.
impossible because you guys are playing each other this week, so one person's going to have 8 wins guaranteed.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, barring some sort of you lose, one of you guys loses 4 in a row and the other loses 3 in a row. I think you guys are fairly safe, but it's cool that one of you guys is going to get a win and one of you guys is going to get a loss here. So there are definitely some implications, especially if you guys are probably gunning for that 1-2 spot and get that first round bye in the playoffs. So you guys obviously have a lot to play for. And it looks like both of you guys are still trying to piece together your lineups for the week because you both have some gaps. You haven't even filled everything out yet.
No, well, I actually did some adjusting before we were talking. So I do not have the bad week that I had last week where I had 7 people on bye. I have some big pieces that are gone. I have T.Y. Hilton and Mike Crabtree. Those are my wideouts pretty much.
Yeah.
So I am short a wideout. I have Sanu. I don't know if I'm going to stick with him. There are choices on the waivers, so I still have some work to do. John is down Latavius Murray, Marvin Jones, and Derek Carr. Now, Derek Carr wouldn't have been starting anyway.
Yeah, he's got Tom Brady back locked in.
Yeah, so,
And he does have Doug Martin already in his lineup, and there is nowhere does it say that Doug Martin's actually playing.
Well, I would imagine that John knows his shit and knows what's going on. So
I've been following this as well, and Doug Martin has not played since week 2, but this is the first week where he's actually back at practice. So certainly trending very much in the right direction, but nowhere does it say that he's actually a lock to actually play this week. So I'm just saying it will be interesting to see if Doug Martin is not ready to go. He will have to do some moving and shaking on the RB front for his team.
Yep. I don't know. This is going to be an interesting matchup because this is so different. Our team, at least my team, and I think for the most part, a lot of John's team looks very different than the first time we played each other. Like, if you look at that very first matchup of our teams, like, dude, my team earned my name. Like, who the fuck are these fucking guys? I started Tyrod Taylor, Colby Fleener before he had anywhere close to any of those games that he had a few times this year.
Yep.
God, my team was just horrible. It only got me 80 points. John's team wasn't great. He didn't have Tom Brady yet, but he had enough pieces to get him like 100 or so, 108, I think, and then just started going off. Now our teams are totally different. I mean, he's still got Julio, but now I've got Matt Ryan.
Yep, different quarterbacks for both you guys. Yeah, a lot of different pieces than you had before, but pieces that are performing a lot better now than they were earlier this year too.
I guess so, yeah. I don't know. I think this is going to be tough. I think John's really, hurting at running back, and the fact that Latavius Murray is on bye, I think is a really big deal. However, the coin flip to that is that I've not really been very hot on the wideouts, and now I've got 2 of my better wideouts on bye. So we're both weak. We're basically coming into this matchup, we're basically weakest at what was already our, or we're more weak at whatever was our weakest position. So it's going to be a tough one.
I will say I am much more worried about John's team this week than I am about your wide receiver situation. I think you'll easily be able to fill in that wide receiver slot in whichever way you feel best. I think John's got a lot more work to do. If Doug Martin doesn't play, I mean, I'm not sure exactly who is the obvious next man up to fill in there, and he's got his flex position to worry about as well. I wonder if he's going to have to do some waiver wire.
I think he's already done them.
So maybe he'll say, okay, Paul Perkins looks like maybe the best option as a running back in New York, and can throw that in somewhere.
Paul Perkins, but Jesus, who the fuck is Paul Perkins, right? Like, Paul Perkins only got this year has one game with 8 points where he had 2 catches for 72 yards. But other than that, he has 1.5, 3, 1.5, and then 5.5
Well, yeah,
last
he's
week.
not anybody that you would have known about until last week when he kind of emerged even ahead of Rashad Jennings as maybe the better looking running back there. So certainly somebody you could play against Cincinnati who's not a good rush defense. So, can easily throw that into his flex. But again, if Doug Martin doesn't play, I'm not sure who else he's throwing in there. Like CJ Procise, looked like shit last week. Derrick Henry is injured, so not quite sure how John's team is going to look come Sunday. And so I think he's got a lot more work to do. And some of his matchups are a little on the tougher side. Chicago defense is very good. Seattle obviously has a good defense. I just think you have a more favorable matchup. Plus, you've got 2 people on New England. If Tom Brady throws a touchdown, you've got Edelman there to scoop one of those up, and you've got LeGarrette who can steal touchdowns away from Tom Brady. So I just think you've got a lot more upside this week, and I'm putting my money on your team.
Well, that drives confidence through my veins, Sean.
So do not disappoint me.
Well, all right, I will do my best. I'm also going to pick myself. I kind of agree with you. I think John has got some tough matchups, and the fact that he's now lost Latavius Murray, who I'm so glad I don't have to face because he's been looking pretty especially after last week against Denver. Ouch. 3 touchdowns. I'm glad I don't have to go up against that.
Yeah.
I will give myself the edge as well.
Yeah, and figured you probably would. Any kind of fiery fighting words that you want to pass John's way as you guys top dogs match up here?
No. How can I give any shit talk to a guy whose name is Brian wears pickin' mittens? I wear pickin' mittens. And not only that, but the reference in the picture that he uses, everybody remembers that Always Sunny episode, the kitten mittens. That was hilarious.
Commercial is awesome.
Oh, it's hilarious. So, no, I have no fiery words. I'm ready to face him. John is one of the better players that I've ever played against in fantasy football. So anytime I'm going up against him, it's going to be a good week. So I know I need to bring my A game. I expect he's going to bring his. So I'm ready.
That is weak shit. I do not like that. I want to hear some fucking death threats. I want to hear talking about people's children. I want to hear who the fuck is Paul Perkins. Well, I want to hear some shit that, man, okay. You're taking the high road. I don't respect that at all.
Well, there's a reason I'm 7-2 and you're 4-5. It's the respect. The fantasy gods have to be appeased, and I'm telling you, the bad juju is real.
You're Mr. 7-2, just walking along, striding along with your nice clean pressed suit on.
I wish I had a clean
I'm
press.
fucking clawing and punching and taking down everyone and their mothers. I'm pushing children into cars if I have to. I am selling my soul if that was an option.
Well, hold on a second. Remember how we were talking about how you were one of the, you have the most highest points forward?
Yeah.
Where are you on the points against?
Good question. Let us take a peek at that. I think I've kind of come down to earth on that one. I've had some not as tough matchups lately. Yeah, I'm right in the middle of points against. So
yeah, because you've had the last 2 weeks. You're on a 2-game win streak.
Yeah, and I haven't put up massive numbers in either of those games, but I haven't had to beat anybody that's throwing up 120 or above either.
I guess that's true. Well, I don't expect these 4 and 5s to sit. I expect that by the end of the year, it's going to be really close. It's going to be really competitive. What are your predictions, I guess, for the way everything plays out?
Man, it's really tough to make predictions right now, and more than 2/3 of the league has the exact same record.
Do you think it would be easier to find out in the next you think we'll know maybe in the next 2 weeks who's going to be?
I don't think we will. That's the thing. I think we're so close in the standings. Even if 3 teams go 2-0 this week and next week, and then lose the next 2 weeks, and somebody else goes 2-0 the last 2 weeks, you're back to square one. I just think it's going to be pretty similar to last year, where there was a handful of teams that at the very last week of the season were all fighting, all statistically had a chance to make the playoffs. And I feel like this year is even like more magnified. I can't believe so many people have the same record. I don't remember seeing something like this.
No, not a logjam, not a logjam like this. That's how many did you say? It was six? Six people?
Six teams have a 4-5 record.
Wow. I mean, that just goes to show you what a fucking crazy season this one has been. In particular, there's not really a lot of disparity. I feel like John and myself, the reason that we're 7-2 is not because we're the highest scoring teams, and it's not because we've had the lowest amount of points against us. We're actually, if you look at it, we're kind of right in the middle on. Well, okay, I'm kind of lucky. I have the lowest points against at 957.
That's going to be helpful. You either have to throw up the most points, or you've got to get lucky, or some kind of favorable combination of the two. I think one interesting statistic: the top 3 teams for points for on the entire season are all at 4-5.
That is kind of interesting.
So, it's just comes down to the matchups. It comes down to scoring points at the right times. Yeah.
Yeah. No. That's kind of crazy. Jimmy,
Phil, and myself, we all have the same record. And then Derek is number 4, and he's at 5-4.
Yeah. Wow.
So
damn.
Yeah, it's going to be a dogfight, and we still have one more matchup to preview here. We can't forget about Phil and Chris. Chris. If Chris doesn't win this week, I think I would have to say his fantasy chances or his playoff chances are probably out the door, because he certainly doesn't have the luxury of beating anybody in points for. So even if he has the same record as a lot of other people, he's still going to be ranked a lot lower than them. So
yeah,
for him, you've got to get those wins. That's the only way. And he's got to go against Phil, who is the second highest scoring team of the season. So let's.
Not only that, he pretty much the only player that Phil has on bye is fucking Eric Ebron.
Yeah, and he's got Jordan. He's got Jordan Reed that's filling in. Well, not even filling in. That's his normal guy. So no loss there on Eric Ebron for Phil.
Phil's got a full team. All right,
Phil's got a very full team. And
looking at
this
too. Yeah, looking at this right now, Phil is poised to have probably one of the highest scores of the week. So I have to pick him. I don't think there's a question.
That was so fast.
I'm sorry. No, and I think Chris knows this too. It's like he has to pull off a fantasy fucking miracle this week. He needs to be able. I don't know who he's targeting on the waiver wire for a QB, but he doesn't have a backup QB.
Yep.
So he needs to get one of those. He needs to hope to God that his players, whoever they're going to be, and it looks like he's pretty much set on his lineup except for quarterback. He's got to have a good week.
Yeah, one piece that I really do like, obviously besides Le'Veon Bell, I do really like Jordan Howard this week, and I'm kicking myself for dropping Jordan Howard when it looked like his time was up. I dropped him right before he had that big game, 28 points 2 weeks ago, and then Chris did a nice move snagging him up there. So I could see some big points coming from Jordan Howard on that one. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who he fills in for quarterback. But he's going to need some people who, aren't known for having monster games. He's going to need them to have some monster games.
Yeah, no, I don't. Unless that happens, unless Chris just happens to fucking just go off, he picks up the right quarterback that's going to get him either enough points or more points. I mean, he's got Phil's got Carson Palmer going up against SF. He's got Melvin Gordon against Miami. Oh gosh, it's just I don't know. It's going to be this is going to be one of the toughest wins to get. If Chris does win, he fully deserves it, and he has kept his playoff hopes alive. I'm rooting for him in a way because I don't want anybody to kind of give up on the season. Even if you're not going to make it into the playoffs. But yeah, he's got to pull it together. He's got to put it together for this week to get that W. So we'll see what happens. But right now, with the way it's looking, I'm picking Phil.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you're saying. I have to give it to Phil as well. Yeah, I mean, would be nice to see Chris get a win for a couple different reasons, just like you said, so he stays competitive. But also, I want all the other 4 and 5 teams to lose, and Phil is one of those 4 and 5 teams. So, Chris, would be nice to see you pull it ahead, but man, yeah, Phil's team is just looking real poised for a big week this week, and he's got basically his full squad ready to go with no bye week fill-ins.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but man, it's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be tough.
So all right, so what did we end up doing? We did for Phil and Chris, we picked Phil. What did we do for Jimmy and Joey?
Jimmy and Joey, that was the only one we split. I picked Joey, and you picked Jimmy, and you also predicted that will be the closest game of the week.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
All right, yeah, otherwise we had the same exact picks all around, so we'll definitely review these the next week, want to see how right or wrong we were, but this should be a fun week, got a lot of close teams in the standings matching up against each other. I would expect a lot of people that are friends will not be friends after this week, including John Glasgow and Brian Grove. If you guys don't fucking hate each other, I don't know what you guys are doing.
No, we're the hill to climb to the top is it's a tough one, and the battle gets more brutal the higher you go. And so John and I are about to have that monumental Clash of the Titans, and so we will see who comes out number one.
Who the fuck is Paul Perkins?
What was the other one? CJ?
CJ Procise? Procise?
Is that how you say it?
Yeah, that is how. I know because I watched some of the Seahawks game, and they were saying CJ Procise.
Procise. Well,
Procise.
I am precisely. I don't know.
Damn it! That could have been so good right there.
It was. So it was gonna go somewhere, and it just went off into oblivion. All right.
Well, that's a good way to end it. Let's shoot this fucker off into oblivion and see where we all end up after this week's games.
Everybody enjoy it. Be safe, and we will. I guess we'll catch you next time.
Laters.
Later.